Peace family. It's so good to be with you tonight. This is Wednesday Night Live, and we're glad that you are with us tonight. Hope everybody's safe, everybody's doing well. Had a lot of rain these last couple of days, but we know that the rain washes away the pain, and so we're thankful and grateful. I know that some of you all are trying to assimilate the message that I preached this past Sunday as we were looking at being healthy, taking care of our body. Or should I say, taking care of God's body, because we said that our body is a treasure, it is a temple, but it's also a tool. And today we're going to talk a little bit more about that third part, it being a tool and being well-defined and ready to be used for God and for our families and for the world as God intended. And so I'm just excited that you all are here tonight, and we're looking forward to it. Please make sure you share this with other people. If you've got friends and family, we know that people watch this live, but many, many people watch it after Wednesdays, and they share it all over. And we're so excited about all the people that are watching us from Indiana, Kentucky, California, over in Switzerland, all the different folk that are watching us. And I'm hearing all great things about how you're enjoying what God is doing through our ministry. So we're thankful and grateful. Well, tonight I am blessed to be joined by two great friends, two wonderful physicians that are doing an amazing job, not only as a couple, but what they're doing separately in the community. And I'm just so thankful and grateful to be joined by them. I'm going to introduce them in a moment. We're going to pray for our time, and then I'll introduce them. And we got some really great questions that we're going to tackle about how to live healthy, looking at natural living, answer some of the issues that some of you have raised that we want to bring towards our physicians. And so we're looking forward to it. Let's pray, and let's ask God to bless our evening tonight. Father, we pray you bless us. Thank you for your love and grace, all that you do in us and through us, even in spite of us. And we pray that you'll bless those that are watching us today, Lord. And we just pray that we'll make ourselves more available, Lord, to you and to others, that we may one day hear you say, well done, good and faithful servant. Now bless this time in Christ's name. Amen and amen. Well, as I said, I'm joined today by some amazing, amazing friends and doctors that are just doing a great job. You met some of them on Sunday. I met both of them, I should say, on Sunday doing the message portion. And we're just thankful that they were able to join us tonight for Wednesday Night Live. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and tell us all about themselves. And so if you all would, go ahead and introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about yourself. And you did a full thing on Sunday. We heard all that, but just tell us briefly about yourself.
So I'm Dr. Jamelaah Gater-Richardson, and I am a board-certified family physician, and I also specialize in integrative medicine, which is a specialty that takes evidence-based natural and holistic therapies and combines it with traditional Western medicine to help people live better, live their best lives, achieve their health goals. And so that was something that I just have been really passionate about. To me, medicine is not just handing someone a prescription and telling them to take their medicine, but it's really about helping them live a healthy and productive life, from looking at their health and wellness to what they're eating, their exercise, their sleep, their family dynamics, their emotional health. It's all of those things, and that's one of the things that evidence-based medicine with integrative medicine really focuses on.
And thank you, Dr. Richardson, joining us a couple of weeks ago with the other doctors, and now you brought your better half with you.
Other half, my lovely wife. Good evening, Rev. Good evening, Peace Baptist. It is indeed a pleasure to be here, to be back and talking on a different topic. Eddie Richardson from Eatonton, Georgia, a family physician and a fellowship-trained geriatrician and an hospitalist in internal medicine, inpatient hospital medicine. Work with my wife. We have mentioned the other night that we not only work at the hospital. She's an ER doc by day and a integrative medicine the rest of the time, but I'm also a hospitalist by day, and then we run our practice, Lake Oconee Urgent and Primary Care Center, as well as Lake Oconee Concierge Medicine, which is very personalized medicine and tailored to the individual, and we do that on a day-to-day basis, and we've been practicing together a while now.
Well, that's what I want to talk about first. My very first question before we get into health issues is just the health of relationship, you know. You all are married. As I said this past week, got a chance to marry you all in Jamaica. Looking forward to that second renewal of vows, all right? No, just joking here, but a little bit. But we're excited about what we're seeing in your relationship, because so many couples have a hard time just being married, but you guys are married and also working together as a couple as well. How's that? Talk to us a little bit about that. This is Valentine's month. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about marriage and working together and keeping the marriage and the fires burning when you're doing that.
Well, that's a great question, Rev. I call it the American experience. The medical experience. We've been married 17 years now, Rev. You put us together 17 years ago. It's been a great ride. It has ups and its downs. But obviously having my loving wife and my work partner, and I think what makes it work or has made it work is I met Jamelaah giving a speech at a national conference in Kansas City. And we've had pretty much the same vision, I think, from there. And that was the catalyst from where we pretty much built from. So we've been able to we have our ups and downs and our disagreements and seeing things differently, but we know our end goal. And so that brings us back together. And so, we practice our style of medicine. We've worked together. I've hired her pretty much. You've been at TenderCare. I hired her first. I've been a year ahead of her.
Back in the day.
Yeah, I was a year ahead of her. I was a first year, and she was a fourth year, so I'm always a year ahead of her. So
in career-wise.
Yeah. So I hired her to help me in my first clinic, or we built the first clinic out at Lake Oconee, and then we did Lake Oconee Urgent Primary Care Center, and so we've just been working together and interacting, and now she'll tell you about her being an ER doc and me being a hospitalist, where she's an ER and calls me in the middle of the night that I got to admit a patient. So we still have that interaction. But I think the thing about it that makes our marriage work is that we can leave work sometime at work. And then sometimes, when we bring home work from the office, we can discuss it through. And she allows me to be the CEO or the medical director of the urgent care center, but she's really behind the scenes directing. Right. And I don't have a problem with bouncing my ideas off of her and saying, what do you think about that? What do you think about this? And she gives me her feedback. And sometimes she gives me pushback. Yeah. And, I'm willing to accept that. And then sometimes she lets me make the decision. And what Joel Osteen says, I get to make the major decisions, and she makes the little decisions, and they haven't been a major decision yet. I like it. So we get to do that. So that's kind of how it goes. What do you say, sweetie?
Well, we truly are the epitome of married to medicine. But the no drama version. And I like to call us the Jay-Z and Beyonce because we call it Team Richardson, but I think we really work as a team, and we understand that not only in our personal life, but in our business life, and we're here to support each other. And like he said, we each have strengths, and so we play to those strengths. He's a people person. He does well with interacting with people. I'm more of a intellectual in terms of, running the numbers and being the money person and saying, okay, this is what we need to do. We're not going to do this. We're going to do that so that, we can keep, the business, the doors open, especially in these challenging times. And so by playing to both of our strengths, then we both shine and we both, flourish and do well. And I think you're right in terms of, we are very busy as physicians. And so when we have time together, spending that time together or taking time to spend together, whether we go on a vacation, usually out of the country, because the only time we can turn when we still don't even turn the phones off, but the only time we can actually get a break is usually when we leave the country. So just trying to have that time to spend together, outside and take that break and just have that personal time together, is how you sort of make that balance between work life and home life when you're pretty much involved 24/7. So.
Well, that sounds very familiar to my wife and myself. We work together here at the church on a regular, and you all definitely spoke to all of those of us who work together like that. And again, y'all are great examples. And I appreciate y'all. And I enjoyed y'all going with us to Israel. We went to Israel together. Went with our whole church as we went, and we had a really great time.
Yeah, we did.
Next trip, well,
next
pandemic
trip,
has to be.
pandemic. We're doing a cruise.
Vaccinated life.
Yes.
Once you get vaccinated,
that's exactly right.
We
you
can
can
start
do that.
going.
And so we're doing Royal Caribbean, and we're going to start in Greece and Athens, and then go to Turkey, and then to Israel. That's what the next trip will be.
We're
so
there.
We're
We love
ready.
that
So
trip.
yes, Odyssey of the Seas, Royal Caribbean. We're going to do it. 2022 or 2023. All right. So anyway, long story. That's exciting. What we're doing in medicine and in marriage. But in our own personal lives, we've got to really take care of ourselves and make sure that we're healthy. Now, we talked a lot on Sunday about our immune system. What kind of issues do we need to deal with in our immune system? A lot of questions that we had coming from individuals was about our immune system itself. How should we take care of it? What is some advice that you may have as it relates to that?
You want to start with that one?
Okay, I can start with that one. Well, especially in these times, we see what an important role that our immune system plays. And so kind of what we touched on Sunday was keeping your immune system primed and healthy, which starts with some of the things in Rev's message on Sunday in terms of getting enough sleep and rest, also what you put into your body by eating lots of fruits and vegetables, all the colors of the rainbow. You're actually putting phytonutrients in, as well as your vitamins like your vitamin C, vitamin D, the other vitamins that are going to help support your immune system. And what that role does is then when you have a foreign invader, whether it's a virus, whether it's a bacteria, something coming at you, your immune system can respond and fight that off before it actually takes root inside your body. The other side of that as well, which we also alluded to, is your immune system plays a role in healing your body against free radicals and the inflammation and some of the other things we're going to talk about, which as your cells start to deteriorate, if your immune system can get rid of that deteriorating cell before it actually changes and becomes cancerous, then you avoid having issues like cancer or chronic long-term diseases. So what you're putting in your body can help your immune system and help your body fight off disease, literally. And so that's one of the important things. And we'll touch, as we talk a little bit more about COVID and different supplements you can take and what you can do. But one of the first things you can do is just every day eat 4 to 5 servings of fruits and vegetables, which I know that's a high goal, so maybe even start with 2 or 3 fruits and vegetables, all the colors of the rainbow, and you're going to set yourself up for a healthy immune system just by doing that.
How does the inflammation play a part in that? I know you brought a picture of an inflammation pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us about that, because I'm sure that plays a lot in having a healthy immune system.
It really does, Rev. And talking about inflammation, because what we're finding is inflammation is the basic of most of our disease states. And the reason that is, and where it comes from eating, is these antioxidants, or these free radicals that cause inflammation in your vessels. And you mentioned, about your heart vessels and how the plaques sit up in your vessels. Well, when you got inflammation, it also inflames the cells and they can't replicate. And so that starts to break down. That's part of why the diet is so important, and why you talked a little bit, and we will, about an alkaline diet and alkaline water, is because when you have those radicals, they start to irritate the cell, and then they can get in and cause DNA to start to form a different way. And so the more inflammatory process you got, the more unhealthy the cells are. And the more unhealthy the cells are, the more unhealthy you are. And overall, you're global. And so that's part of inflammation, just like rheumatoid arthritis. Arthritis is a prime state of inflammation. It is an irritation in a joint that's from swelling and inflammatory process. If you drink more water, you eat a better diet, you can decrease that inflammation in your actual joint just from what you're eating. Also, heart condition. We talk about cholesterol and LDL and HDL, and one of the things we were talking about on the way in is LDL. If you got a more of a high cholesterol diet, you're going to have more inflammation, which means your LDL is going to go up even more. So you got to look at those sort of things, and then that creates other conditions. Diabetes, and I explain diabetes, especially type 2 diabetes, which is what we get later in life, comes from an inflammatory process, comes from overweight. It comes chronically on. You didn't start out with it at 25, but you're 55, you're 60, you're now 20, 30, 40 pounds overweight. What is that? Fat is irritation. you've got more inflammation. Now your cells can't pick up the actual sugar out of your diet. And what does it do? It raises your blood sugar in your bloodstream. So you become a type 2 diabetes. And then what do you got to do? Now you got to get on a medication. What you really need to do is lose those 20 pounds. And that's what I tell patients. So that's a clear example of how inflammation directly affects you.
So losing weight really helps in that inflammation pyramid. Speak to that.
Yeah, so just as what we're saying, we're learning now that inflammation is the root of most chronic diseases. And so to simplify things, from a lifestyle standpoint, if you can focus on an anti-inflammatory diet or focus on ways to decrease your inflammation, you are going to either help to treat naturally your chronic disease or help to prevent you from actually ever even developing a chronic disease. And so we've got here the anti-inflammatory pyramid. This is from Dr. Andrew Weil, which is who I trained under. I actually did my fellowship at the University of Arizona in integrative medicine, and he's one of the pioneers of this field. And so, you had the old food pyramid from school that everybody learned, which I hate to tell you was that was our thinking then, but that's really not the way to go about eating. And so sometimes we have to unlearn some of the things that we were taught, which kind of set us up and put us in the wrong direction. And so the anti-inflammatory pyramid, at the bottom, the notion is still the same. What you want to build your foundation on is what you should eat the most of. And then as you get toward the top, you can still partake of those things, but you're going to eat less and less of the things that could be a little bit more inflammatory or aren't as healthy. So at the bottom, you've got the fruits and vegetables that we talked about. And then next, you're going to have your whole grains, pasta, and beans. Those are going to be more like 2 to 3 servings a day. And so a lot of times we tend to focus our diets around meat and potatoes. Well, your protein should actually be even less. That's higher up on the food pyramid. Maybe you have 1 to 2 servings of protein a day. Because again, most of our proteins are going to be animal-based, which have then saturated fats, which we'll talk about, but they're more inflammatory. So if you build your foundation on things that help to prevent inflammation, like fruits and vegetables, then you have your grains and your pastas, which play a role in health because some of them have fiber in them, but they also still break down to sugar, and sugar turns to fat and causes inflammation. So we'll talk about that as well. So you have that, but not the focus of your diet, then the proteins, and then as you go on up the anti-inflammatory pyramid, you'll talk about, whole soy foods, which are healthy to eat, such as, I know not everybody's a fan of tofu and edamame, but if you are, think about nuts. You can incorporate nuts. And then other sources of protein, such as cheese and dairy, again, higher up on the top of the pyramid. You don't want to base your diet on cheese and dairy. And then as you get up higher, you can have, if you drink red wine, people always ask us about the health benefits of that. It's, basically 1 serving a day. And for women, that's 4 ounces, which is like this much. And for men, it's 6 ounces. And my joke is you don't get to save your wine for like the whole week and drink it on Friday, right? So you don't get to have like the whole huge glass or half the bottle on Friday. In moderation, a very small amount. And that's part of a Mediterranean diet for those, who do drink wine. And then when you get to the top, you have like dark chocolates that are high in actual real cacao that also have the health benefits and the health effects. And again, you can have that in moderation, a couple of servings a week, not every single day. So again, it's looking at eliminating the processed foods, things that come in a box, things that come in a can, because those, as we'll talk about, have a lot of artificial chemicals in them, and also chemicals to stabilize them. And those chemicals directly cause inflammation in your body. And so while they're good for business and they're good for shelf life, they really are horrible for your health. And so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about trans fats and some of the chemicals that are put into food to help keep it from perishing, but that are not good for you.
Yeah, that's good. Let's go ahead and talk about that now. The saturated fats, people eating from, these meats that have been processed by man. Talk to us about that. And I want to move into the types of diets that people, some people are pescatarians, vegetarians. What type of diet is best? You mentioned the Mediterranean diet. Some folk on the Atkins diet where they're just eating, I think it's just meats. And then other people on these high carb,
Keto.
ketos,
diet, that's
all that stuff. Let's look at all of that and how does, health and nutrition play a part in that? What's best for us?
So to answer your first question about the fats, let's just talk about the category of fats. So you have poly and mono unsaturated fats. Those are the healthiest fats. The easy way you can tell, they're liquid at room temperature. So those are going to be your olive oils, your avocado, your grapeseed oils, that a lot of us, things we've heard of that. Okay, it's healthy to cook with olive oil. Those play an important role in our brain health and in our cell health. And in limited quantities are actually healthy. Then you get your saturated fats, which are mainly derived from animals, like beef fat, the Crisco that your mama used to cook with 30 years ago. And they're solid at room temperature, right? So you can picture that and visualize that. And those, when they're eaten in limited quantities, are healthy. Typically, though, we recommend that you do a coconut or a palm oil. Those are going to be your healthier choices of a saturated fat. And the importance of saturated fat is when you're cooking at a high heat, so you want to brown that chicken or sear that meat, whatever you're cooking, then you need a stable fat that's not going to break down at that high heat. And so that typically is going to be a saturated fat. And one of the mistakes that people make is they take that olive oil and they crank the heat up on high, and you just took a healthy fat and oxidized it, you broke it down and made it an unhealthy fat. So what was meant to decrease inflammation in your body, because it contains omega-3s, we'll talk a little bit about that, but that's a type of fat that decreases inflammation. You just put it at that high heat, oxidized it, and turned it into something that will put inflammation in your body. So if you're using one of those liquid, room temperature healthy fats, such as olive oil, you want to cook it on a medium heat and not really crank the heat up. If you've got to cook something at a high heat, then you want to pick a coconut oil or a palm oil. So that's the question about your healthy fats. And then, do you want to talk about the different diets or touch on?
Well, let me touch on carbohydrates for a minute because they also go together.
Carbs and fats.
Carbs and fat, because they kind of go together a little bit. And you need, as we were talking about, you need some of the saturated fats to go with your carbohydrates. But one of the questions that we had was, is carbohydrates bad? No, carbohydrates are not bad. There are good carbohydrates and there are bad carbohydrates, okay?
There are good fats and bad fats.
And it's a spectrum across there of where you go to. So good carbohydrates are, what do they say, low to the ground? I think you said that, low to the ground. They're the fruits, your vegetables, they're those type things that go across. And why is that? Because they're complex carbohydrates versus simple carbohydrates. So a simple carbohydrate is a donut, candy, a candy bar. So you go across the spectrum all the way over here. And why does that become important? Is because if you got a complex carbohydrate, throw some new words out there, glycemic index and glycemic control, and how what we're talking about is how fast the glucose gets into your bloodstream. So complex carbohydrates kind of come out slower and don't give you this bump in your sugar rush, whereas simple fats come out really quick and then drop off, and they drop low. Then you go into the craving, which was another word. How do we get out of craving? So you need both of them, and they go across the spectrum, and you need to limit the ones over on the other side, the donuts, the floury stuff. Meats start to get into that red, kind of blue-red zone over there. But if you'll stay over into the complex carbohydrates, then you'll have good carbohydrates as well. And so that's kind of how we get to there. So that goes with her saturated and mono
and fats. And we'll get into this a little bit later, but one of the key things, people always equate their heart health and their cholesterol with these saturated fats, right? With these red meats that are really fatty. You can see the steak when you get ready to cook it, all the fat and the marbling, and that's what sits in your arteries and clogs it. And so people equate that in their mind. And yes, you can eat red meat, but you should limit it. The most important thing, though, or one of the things that people overlook, is the carbohydrates, because what happens is when you eat sugar, especially if you're not going to burn those calories, sugar is really meant as a stored form of energy for you to use to then go ahead and exercise or run and hunt animals, as you were talking about. And when you overeat that, then your body has to do something with it. And not only does it spike your sugar, your body has to then take that sugar out of your bloodstream and figure out where to put it. And what does it do? It turns that sugar to fat. bad fats, LDLs. So when you're eating excess carbohydrates, you actually are impacting your cholesterol and you don't even realize it. And so by having more of a steady complex carbohydrate that slowly releases and not eating all of these processed foods, that's another reason why your cholesterol is elevated. So you have to kind of look at the whole picture. And going back to your question about what types of diets people should eat, I always say, if you start with, we call it a plant-based diet, but in terms of trying to eat the most number of fruits and vegetables that you can in a day, regardless of what else then are the background players, right? So the stars of your diet should be fruits and vegetables, 5 to 7 servings a day. And then you want to think of your meats and your proteins and your grains and your other things as like condiments or accompaniments to, the plants. So does everyone need to be a vegetarian or a vegan? No, but everyone does need to try to focus on how they can get fruits and vegetables, into their diets. And so as long as you do that, because you can be an unhealthy vegetarian, you can eat all the pasta and the rice and the potatoes you want, and again, you are too carb heavy. So just because you're a vegetarian or a vegan doesn't mean that you're eating a healthy diet. But by the same token, as I was raised, my mama used to always, she'd cook the meat and then I'd have a little bit of salad or, and so I've been always focused on the meat, a lot of people, the meat in their diet, which again causes inflammation. So I have to kind of flip that thinking by, the same token. If you're heavily focused on meats and things that cause inflammation, that's not necessarily a healthy diet either. So just trying to eat a balanced meal. And we'll talk a little bit about what a healthy plate should look like, what portion size should look like, and that's going to put you on, the road to being healthy. And it's really just what works personally and best for you.
Wow.
And talking about diet, Trev, what most of the literature is now saying is the Mediterranean diet, or the modified Mediterranean diet, is really the best diet out there. And even doing research across looking at diets, is if you're cognitive of what you're eating and putting into your body, you're probably going to be eating better. So as Dr. Gater said, Jamelaah, that plant-based is your best start. But they're saying, and I'm recommending this to patients, is really the Mediterranean diet, which is really a balance across the board, which has a lot of fish in it. It has a lot of fruits and vegetables, in it. Also, just to touch on blood type diets, that was one of the other concerns, was what are blood types diet? And those diets are really geared toward, if you're type A, then you should eat more like this. If you're type B, you should eat more like this. Well, and this only came about in 1996, where I think it's Dietary is actually the author, Peter Dietary, came up with this diet after studying cultural and our ancestry, and came up with these folks should eat this way. And it was really based out of class. Like for A, you're kind of a vegetarian. If you're in the A, you should stay away from meats. You should stay away from those. B are kind of nomad people because they learn to accommodate and tolerate a lot of different foods, so they could eat a lot of different types of food. And then the AB, they're kind of the meat or the hunters. And so the O is more the meat and the hunters. So they could eat a lot of meat diets. So, but when they looked across, and not to put any shade on blood type diets, after 1,400 studies, they really said there's no real ethical evidence-based value to that. They're basically saying if you eat right and pay more attention, you don't necessarily have to eat according to your blood type. You're going to probably eat a healthier diet anyway if you go from that perspective.
Well, we keep trying to look for the magic bullet, the magic diet, the magic food, the magic whatever. Let me throw a couple things at you all. Okay. Margarine versus butter, almond milk versus dairy, sugar and then NutraSweet. Talk to us about those alternatives. What's healthy? I mean, is margarine, some studies you see, margarine's good, then butter and others, it's almond milk. I drink almond milk now. I love that. It actually tastes very good, like regular milk. But what are the benefits of some of those alternatives that people are doing?
That's actually a great question. And it's crazy because how things change. So even though, I look young, I look 26, I'm actually 46. And so when I first started my career 20 years ago, I would recommend to patients, eat margarine, eat that. Can't believe it's not butter. But in actuality, now we're realizing, and our thinking and has changed, and we're realizing that, butter is a saturated fat. It's solid at room temperature, but is butter horrible for you? No, I actually cook with ghee, which is a clarified butter, but it's the amount that you use, and you have to use it in moderation. So if you're looking at Paula Deen, who's like, I'm going to coat the butter, and we're going to have coated fried butter, I mean, no, that's it's way too much. So if you're using a tablespoon, to cook a whole portion of whatever you're cooking, vegetables or whatnot, and it's 4 or 5 servings, that tablespoon, which is maybe 120 calories, is very small amount of saturated fat. But if you're using the whole stick of butter, then that's a different situation. And so, same goes with what was you had a couple of other
like almond milk.
Okay.
And that's a huge
versus dairy, right?
Dairy.
Right. So almond milk comes from almonds. It's actually the juice of almonds, and so it is plant-based. And so when you're looking at the amount of fat that's contained in an almond milk, there's very little. It's a much healthier choice of quote-unquote dairy substitute. And is it wrong to have whole milk or 2% milk? No, but again, it's in moderation. So if you're eating milk with cereal every day, or like when we grew up, you have that, again, what we're taught, have that whole big old glass of milk, that's too much fat in your diet if you were to drink that every single day. So can you have a glass of milk once a week? Yeah, but if that's what you like, but maybe the other days you're going to drink almond milk or put that with your cereal. So again, it's just kind of shifting what we think, and again, going back to that, things that are from plant sources, and that pyramid at the top of the pyramid, you want to limit your dairy, limit your saturated fats.
That's excellent.
And then one of the questions we were talking about was the sugar substitutes, stevia versus pure sugar. And so, again, you're always kind of giving up something to get something, okay? So you start talking about the complex sugars or the bad sugars versus the good sugar. So, natural cane sugar in there, and Jamelaah can tell you a little bit more about which is better. Honey is better than regular sugar, but they all contain sugar, and they're simple sugars versus complex sugars. And so when you get into some of the sugar substitutes, they got a different molecule in there that breaks down fructose, for instance. It breaks down a different way than if you had a natural sugar. So you've also got to look at what you're giving up to get that actual flavor from that.
Well, and it's all on a spectrum. So like that was the big. We're gonna go agave. We're gonna put honey. Yeah, those are natural sweeteners. But if you use a whole cup of agave or a whole cup of honey, it's too much simple sugar. That's gonna spike your blood sugar. So you have to go back with everything in moderation. And it's a spectrum, and it's actually a work in progress. Everything is a work in progress. So, should you substitute Splenda or Equal as examples of brand names? I think that's a start, because that's going to then again start to change your palate and your taste buds. But if you only used a very small amount, a teaspoon of regular sugar, would that be wrong? No, because again, you're limiting your amount of sugar and what you're spiking in terms of your glycemic index. So is sugar horrible? No, it just comes down to, how you work it into your diet. I personally, if you get your palate there, I like stevia and monk fruit, and a real stevia that doesn't have other type of erythritols or additives, because again, then you're putting chemicals and manufactured things in your body. So the more natural that you can be, definitely the better. But again, it's along that spectrum. If it tastes nasty and you don't want to drink it, then why do it? But if you can make it with just a much less amount of sugar and you don't drink it that often, then enjoy it and have it than forcing yourself to drink or eat something that you hate that's horrible. There's no point in that either.
Now, we're in a detox time right now from sugar. We're on this sugar fast, trying to get rid of any added sugars. Talk to me about detoxing, detoxing from sugars, from other types of food. Some people want to, go through a detox to cleanse their colon, all those things. Is that healthy? Going into these, should you do that? Does the body naturally detox itself? All those things. Talk to us about that kind of stuff.
All right, I'll take that question. Just as we were talking about, you'll notice as you go through this detox and breaking yourself off that roller coaster of sugar, and I'll talk a little bit about why that is in just a second, that things taste different, right? So when you go back and you try to drink that Kool-Aid or that thing, you're like, wow, this is like so sweet. I can't even, because your taste bud has changed. You have broken yourself from that sugar cycle. And what happens is when you eat those simple sugars and you spike your blood sugar, your body puts insulin into your bloodstream to control that sugar. Then your sugar comes down, and usually it comes down too low. So then you're hypoglycemic or low sugar, and then the cravings come. So then you got to have some more sugar, and you end up on this up and down in this roller coaster. So when you start eliminating these sugars and those spikes, and you're more even, then those cravings tend to go away. And so that's really important. And so it's great. I feel like people should, quote unquote, detox really as often as the seasons change. And there's healthy ways to detox and unhealthy ways to detox. So just looking at all of the unhealthy things that you put in your body and eliminating those for a period of time, whether it's a week or a couple of weeks, is a form of detoxing, right? So limiting the unhealthy sugars is a healthy way to detox. Now you have the other extreme of people who just do like a juice fast, and they blend up all of these things, and they may take supplements to help detoxify their liver and their kidneys. If that's done correctly, I think it can be healthy. There's nothing wrong with taking supplements that help detoxify your body. Most of the time that just means eliminating things from your body. So a lot of us don't go to the bathroom regularly. We won't get into that completely, but sometimes when you do these diets that are higher in fiber, more water, and a few supplements, then you're actually eliminating those toxins out of your body. So a great way to, quote unquote, detox is just like we're talking about, have a really healthy fruits and vegetables, lean meats and proteins, and say, I'm not going to eat anything from a box, or a can or any of those chemicals. And you can do that in a very healthy way. It doesn't have to be so extreme that you're just doing a juice fast for so many days, or you're just doing a master cleanse diet where you're just drinking lemon and water. And I think it is important to do that because we build up all of these toxins in our body and we don't even realize it's giving us headaches. Not only is it making us overweight, it's making us feel fatigued and sluggish. And it's amazing if you take that time to honor and purify your body, how much better you feel and how it will help keep you on a healthy path.
Excellent.
And, in reference to detox, not only that, it sort of brings you back to ground zero, because in this day and age and in our diet, if we're not conscious of what we're eating a lot of things that build up and that accumulate in our cells. And part of a detox is that it helps pulls out all those impurities. And I totally agree with Dr. Gater. Once every 3 months, once a quarter is a great opportunity to go back. But I think, again, if we drink 2/3, and we should be drinking, and people, and you said this Sunday about water, about drinking lots of water, and people don't want to drink water. Our body is 2/3 water, and I often run into patients and say, I don't like water, and I go, how don't you like what you made of? I'm like, what? So they're like, and so I talked to them about, okay, you can put some of the little flavoring in it, but you really need to get back to water because that will purify your cells and keep your cells clean.
How much water should you drink?
You should drink 2/3 of your weight. Okay.
No, half your weight in pounds.
So
if you weigh 180 pounds, your goal, because that's a way to work yourself up to, that's 90 ounces of water. So most people, they might start at 60 and start to work their way up. And then I'll let you finish. I know I keep interrupting. But one other tip, if you drink that amount of water every day, your body, it will increase your metabolism. Your body will burn an extra 17,000 calories in a year, which equals about 5.5 pounds. So just drinking water will increase your metabolism and keep your weight under control. Thank you.
And, just talking about losing weight control and putting that into context, and I'll go back to what I was talking about. After the age of 40, we lose 1 to 2% of our lean body mass. And so after 50 years, we're going to lose between 3 and 5% of our lean body mass just from aging. So we've got to figure out how to keep that in our body. You know what I'm saying? And how do you keep that healthy lean body mass? So you just need to think about, am I aging? I'm going to lose this if I don't do something different. But going back to detox and then using water as a detoxification, which is a pure sort of cleansing, you should do that because it'll pull the impurities out. There's other supplements that you can use to help to cleanse your body and get you back being away from sugar and being away from those free radicals, because then, it brings your body back into the state of being basic. And so talking a little bit about alkaline water versus acidity. So the body, when you hear about, we talk sometimes as doctors about your pH being 7.43. Well, that's a state of where your natural body has been leveled out at. And that means your anions and your cations, in which we learned back in chemistry and in the first year of medical school, you know, what's pulling and pulling against each other when they talk to you about your calcium and your sodium. That keeps your body in a balance. And so the body is less healthy when it's more alkaline, meaning that when that number is below 7.4, when it's 7.3, more acidic, which means you got more free radicals. You got more potential for cells to misreplicate, because cells are always misreplicating. And cancer is caused when cells start to miscommunicate and misreplicate. Well, where does that come from? That comes from free radicals getting into the DNA as the cells are turning over. So if you can keep your body more in a more of an alkaline state, then that is a healthier state. And so you get a lot of free, and how that translates into day-to-day life is if you eat more fruits and vegetables and those sort of good carbohydrates, and you're eating good fats, then you're going to stay more of a basic, rather than if you eat more sugars, if you're drinking more sodas, you're going to be more alkaline. And then, again, your body is not going to be in as healthy a state, and you're going to have more inflammation in your vessels.
Yeah, so people really debate a lot about alkaline water versus, you know, and bottled water. Should I drink it out of a bottle? It's plastic. And then, you know, my thing is just drink more water.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
once you get into that, then you can kind of figure out the other kind of things in that sense. And so, I mean, you know, so I just encourage you to drink water.
Yep.
And those of you who want to debate alkaline versus whatever, that's great. And I totally agree with that. But right now, we just don't drink enough water.
That's right.
As it is. So, and then some of those alkaline waters are a little expensive. And so, but I found out, I did some research, and I found out like Walmart spring water has an alkaline of like 7.4, 7.5. It's at that higher level.
Okay.
So there are cheaper things. Nestea, Pure Life has a higher alkaline level than some of these others. So just research and kind of do some research. But it's so important to drink enough water and make sure you get that alkaline level above so that we can deal with that acidity in our bodies.
And one of the things that pop into my mind, if you want to check where you are, when you get up in the morning time and you know you urinate your first time, if your urine is really dark yellow, you are dehydrated. You are not drinking enough water, really, because that is concentrated. And when we look at your urine in the office, we look at your specific gravity, and we can see you got a lot of heavy particles. So if you get, and as you'll notice this, if you'll do this little experiment, you'll notice my urine is really yellow, but when I drink more water, it's really clear, because that's your body really flushing through and cleansing your cells. And you can see as you drink more water how much lighter your urine is being, and your kidneys are working. And it also helps to keep you from getting kidney disease and renal failure. And for the aging population, particularly in the population that I take care of, you know, the aging ladies that don't go to the bathroom but once or twice a day, that's not good. You need to go to the bathroom at least 3 to 4 times a day. And for office people that work in an office say, I can't go, but once in the morning and once at lunch, that's not a good state to be in, because you're holding those impurities in, and also you're going to give yourself more urinary tract infections. And then when you add sugar in, and when I tell patients that get urinary tract infections, I said sugar is food for the bacteria, because you always got bacteria in your urine, but sugar is food for it. So if you got extra sugar in your diet, you're going to have more, run a chance of having more urinary tract infections. And so if you drink a lot of water, you're flushing that bladder, and you're keeping it going through, and you're also pulling impurities out. So strongly encourage, like you said, we don't drink enough water. And it's actually easy to drink water. I start my day with drinking 2 16-ounce glasses when I'm taking my supplements in the morning. That's how I start. And then most of the time we are drinking something, so I carry a bottle of water around. You'll always see me with a bottle of water, drinking a bottle of water. And then if I pass a fountain, I'll fill it back up. Or if I go past a water dispenser, I fill it back up. So all during the day, I'm constantly drinking water versus a soda.
Right. So important. I just love that. To me, that's just some of the great advice. Y'all have given some great advice. I've learned so much already today. What I want to know is about eating and portion size and all those kind of things. You brought some demonstrations, some things, and we'll show you on the screen as well. Okay. But there's some ways about how should we be eating, but not just how, but how much should we be eating?
Exactly. And like you talked about in the sermon earlier today about having the stadium and the fact that they had to make the seats 3 inches bigger, that's no coincidence. Our portions have gotten bigger, and everything is supersized and bigger. And more calories, more portions equals more calories equals more obesity. And so one of the props that I brought just talks about even making a change where you eat off of a 9-inch plate. You want to hold my mic for me? Thank you. Makes a big difference. And so back in the day, this was our size. You know, if you go back and you look to see what size was a McDonald's hamburger, like when they started in the 50s and 60s, you would laugh now because it was so small, but that was the correct portion size. And so when you look at, this is a typical 11-inch plate. This is what we're eating off of. And so, sorry, but we're wondering why we're gaining so much weight because we're distorted. Everything that we look at is distorted. You should be eating off of a 9-inch plate, not an 11-inch plate. And so when you fill your plate up and you pile it completely, that's automatically going to be too big of a portion size. So one of the things you can do, you can get a pack of 300 plates from the grocery store, and just start with that. You can get that pretty inexpensively, disposable plates, or you can invest in actual 9-inch plates. But if you just start there, that's going to put you on the right portion size. So one of the things is when you look at your plate, what should your plate look like?
So please show this on the screen as she's talking about it.
Yeah, so there's a healthy plate. So half of your plate should be vegetables when you're eating. If you every time you sit down, if you think about this in your mind, what does my plate look like, and what should my plate look like? Half of your plate should be vegetables. And, fruit is good, but fruit is still sugar. And so the vegetables have the fiber without a lot of sugar. And so half your plate should be vegetables. A quarter should be grains, which could be rice, potatoes, pasta. And a quarter should be protein, which could be, fish, chicken. You want to limit your beef to 2 to 3 servings a week. And beef or red meat, which pork is also considered a red meat. If you didn't know, they call it the white meat, but it's really red meat. So your protein, fish and chicken with limited red meats, a quarter of your plate. And so if you sit down and you look at your plate every time and that's the way your plate looks and it's a 9-inch plate, that's an easy way without trying to be so complicated as to know that you're eating in a healthy way. Another good rule of thumb, your protein should be about the size of the palm of your hand. For women, that's going to be about 4 ounces. For men, that's going to be closer to 6 ounces. If you're having your grains, it should be the size of your fist, which is going to work out to about a cup. And then if you're having like cheese or dairy, it should be the size of your thumb, or a serving of nuts even, because nuts are great, but if you eat the whole bag, then it's too many calories, and even though it's healthy fat, it's too much saturated fat. So, and how many of us, if you think about it, when you eat like that, how many people really eat like that? When you look at your portion size and you put it on your plate, hardly ever is it that way. So if you can just work to sort of get your portions down, you may not start off like that, but at least if you're cognizant about it and say, okay, I'm going to take a little bit more off because that's that's too much, but I don't want to be super hungry. So the more you start working those portions down, the more you're going to get used to them. And like Dr. Richardson said, he lost 25 pounds just paying attention to his portion size.
And also talking about diet, and one of the things I've learned over the years is we're one of the few cultures that say breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The rest of the world really doesn't eat like that. And so if you want to eat better, they're saying you should eat 4 to 5 small meals a day and not one big, large, the big, large meals. So eat smaller meals and eat smaller portions and spread it out over the day. And that does a couple things. A, you don't get hungry, and you may not be able to do that, but that should be sort of a goal you should have in your mind. We all sort of sit in this regimental thought that I need to eat breakfast, I need to eat lunch, and I need to eat dinner. You know what I mean? And so, but that's really not the best way to approach, especially if you got a condition, even reflux. If you have reflux, you should definitely be eating smaller meals more frequently.
Yes.
More frequently, because then you're not filling your stomach up so much, and then it's kind of get back out. So you got to think about some of these things kind of logically. So eat smaller meals more frequently during the day. And then what I was going to say is that not only do you get decrease these highs and lows of your blood sugar, you kind of stay at a steady glycemic index. And that also helps you to keep from building up fat and storing it someplace. Because if you get 300, 400 or 500 calories in the morning, and then you get another 500, 700, 800 calories in the afternoon, and believe it or not, and as she said, thank you, sweetie, I did lose 25 pounds by watching my calories, because when I looked at a McDonald's meal or a Burger King meal, that's 1,200 calories for one meal. for one meal. And much as I love McDonald's fries, that's about 300 calories for just a small order of fries. Now, I have to go, I can't eat those. I'll pass up on that and a soda.
And you can eat them sometimes. You just can't eat them every day. And when you go to McDonald's and the lady looks at you and says, "You come here too much," maybe you go to, maybe somebody
Or they know your order.
Maybe somebody was going to McDonald's too much. But
she did tell me that.
But I love the fact that in a lot of the restaurants and things now, they put the calories there, and that really has helped me. It's like, oh, that's 400. Yep. Do I want to spare 450 calories for this slice of this or this, whatever? And that really helps portion control.
Exactly.
I just wanted to say one thing about intermittent fasting, because I know everyone is like super educated, super on top of what's hot now. Intermittent fasting is another way, and it can be a healthy way to help control your portion sizes and help keep your glycemic index under control and your weight under control. What that basically is that you eat during a certain block of time during the day. And so for most people, that's going to be maybe between 12 and 6, either 6 or 8 hours during the day. And so yes, you may want to space your meals. You don't want to eat one huge meal during that block of time, but people will then not be eating late at night, and then, of course, you'll go to bed. You're not eating while you're sleeping, and then they may have something small or hydrated in the morning, but they're not necessarily eating a quote-unquote breakfast. And you can shift that 6 or 8 hour window however you like. If you're busier during the morning and you want to, have your window be between 8 and 4 or 8 and 2, you could do that as well. But a lot of people have found now that intermittent fasting really helps them to stay healthy. And so as long as you do it in the right way, it can be healthy.
That is so good. And on our website, we're going to have both of these doctors have given us a lot of information. We've got some real healthy things that you can go on our website and you can see how to deal with fasting during the lentil period. Dr. Jamelaah did a lot with the lentil fast some years ago, and she's made that available to us. We have a lot of information, and you can go on our website, thisispeace.org, and then go into the Lent part, and you'll see a lot of different information that they've given to those graphs that we just showed you, the portion control area, the inflammation pyramid, all that stuff is right there for you so that you'll be able to get what you need in that regard. This is some excellent information that you've given. Books that you might recommend, are there some things that you can recommend to us that will really help us in that area?
I think that there's a couple of really good books. And again, it's so funny how just in your sermons, how it touches on everything that people should just be thinking about and what should be in their heart and their minds. You were talking about, people live to eat, but you really should eat to live. And so this is a great book. This is by Joel Fuhrman. It really gives you practical tips, and it's got a cookbook to go along with it, quick and easy cookbook on how you can incorporate a plant-based diet. And to be honest, a lot of people, you're like, I know that. These are things that you know. The disconnect is, how do I integrate this into my life and do it in a way that it becomes a lifestyle and that it doesn't feel like it's painful or horrible, and that I can, be happy and healthy with it. And so, that gives you some great practical tips. There's a book called Eat This, Not That. Also, if you can just make small substitutions in what you're eating and getting rid of that sweet tea and those sodas and some of those things and finding substitutes, and doing it gradually and picking one thing at a time and setting a goal. Because that's the thing, is you have to set a measurable goal, and do it over a period of time, whether it's a month or 3 months, and then meet that goal and then go on to your next goal. If you can live your life that way in terms of introducing healthy habits, into your life, then you will actually make a positive change. And that change over time will be exponential. And that's what's so important. Over 20 years, like you were talking about, that short-term sacrifice is going to give you a long-term gain. We've got a couple of books from Dr. Andrew Weil, W-E-I-L, who I trained under, and we'll give you the website. It's drweil.com. He's got all sorts of great health and wellness tips, the anti-inflammatory pyramid. He's got what's called a relaxing breath, a 4-7-8 breath. So we talked about stress reduction and sleep and just taking time to breathe and relax yourself in stressful situations. And breathing is one great way to do it, and people don't even have to know you're doing it. But when the kids are screaming or your boss is driving you crazy and you really just want to, be unchristian-like, you can just do your 4-7-8 breath, and then you'll be fine. Another book, when you were talking about a lot of us eat emotionally, we eat because we're bored, we eat for all of these reasons, and food becomes our comfort or food becomes our friend. How do you really, truly address that? This is a book by Deepak Chopra. I love Deepak Chopra. Like you were saying, life is about choices, and you have infinite possibilities in your life. You always have a choice, and that choice is going to lead to your change. So if you choose differently, your life will be different. And so this talks about what are you hungry for, getting to the bottom of why you're eating and overeating or picking the wrong things, and how you can make changes and for the better, and address those reasons why you may be eating in an unhealthy manner.
That's excellent. I have all the Eat This, Not That books. They look at Olive Garden and all the places that you might go to, restaurants. What is a substitute that you can do?
Yeah, it's counterintuitive. You'd be like, I'm going to have the salad and not the burger. And actually, the salad at the restaurant is more unhealthy than if you had the burger and took the bun off.
Those are excellent books. And all those, and then in my Apple Watch, I have it telling me how to breathe at time. So it'll say breathe, and it just takes me through 1 minute kind of, and it really, really helps. And so there are all types of apps and all types of things out there that's different from Instagram and Facebook. Find some other healthy apps.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, follow us. Yeah, and follow.
I try to do healthy tips.
Yes.
And encourage and inspire you. And it's nice to see that positivity in your day versus
exactly
other stuff.
And so give us your website for your Instagram and all those things where they can get information from you all.
Yeah, it's at Jamelaah Gater, which is my name, is my Instagram, and my Facebook is Dr. Jamelaah Gater, MD. And we'll put that up on the website so you can follow us.
Yes.
I like what you brought up just a minute ago, Reb, and getting in the new age. And one of the things that got me kind of in the healthy mood is, like you said, I got into Fitbit mode and really started putting a Fitbit, and then I put a Lose It app with it together, which helps me to count my calories and to help me count my exercise. And it was just a hip thing to do, not necessarily a hip thing, but it was cool to learn how to lose weight and watch that. And it helped you so much. My watch helps me so much to stay fit, and to say, it tells me to move when I'm sitting too long.
Yeah.
Get up, go move.
Get up.
It tells me about my breathing and my oxygenation. And so those are reminders, because sometimes, I said, I don't know how people do it who have to sit through all day in meetings, because, sometimes I have to sit in a meeting for 45 minutes or an hour, and I'll be like, I got to get up and go move, and there are ways to do it. But that'll help you to stay healthy as well, and that'll also help you to lose weight. So I think there's cool things you can do for the young folk and for the more mature, because I got my Fitbit idea out of the AARP magazine.
Telling you age,
Yes,
AARP.
I get AARP too, so we all, it's coming. Those of you who are younger, it's coming.
The nice thing about that, though, is it's individualized. And so that's one of the things we do is individualized medicine. When you get your Fitbit, it tells you your metabolic rate, which is how many calories you burn in a day before you exercise. And so you'll say, 2,000 calorie, we should eat 1,800 calories for women, 2,000 for men. You may only be burning 1,400 calories a day. And so if you eat 1,800 calories, you're going to be gaining weight. So those little gadgets or apps that you can download on your phone to make it personal really help you. And then you're tracking and you're seeing, wow, I only burn 1,400 calories a day, and I've already eaten 1,200 calories a day. Maybe I'm not going to have that extra snack or bag of peanuts, or maybe I'm going to make that different choice. And by doing that on a daily basis, you're going to see success. When you're not paying attention to that, you get frustrated, and you're like, why am I not losing weight? I'm eating healthy, but you have to measure it and really be cognizant in order to a lot of times to get that positive change.
Well, you guys have just done a great job. They're letting me know that our time is almost up. There's so much going on in the world. COVID's going on. I know there's the Johnson & Johnson just looks like it's just got approved. We'll be able to get that one shot. There's other things that are happening. We got like 1 more minute that we can talk. Can you give us any update on COVID and what's going on in that?
I can. From the COVID, just shifting gears to the COVID, actually, you said it as of yesterday, the Johnson & Johnson vaccination just got approved for EUA, which is emergency use, EAU, emergency authorization use, which means now we can start dispensing. They're going to start with 4 million initially. Toward the end of the month, they're thinking toward the end of March, they're thinking they'll have up to maybe 20 million. So now the good news also is the cases have dropped. I actually was looking at the numbers in Decatur and DeKalb. They've actually dropped. We're talking a 2-3%, which is really good. Last time I was here, we only had 30 million vaccines out there. Now we up to 72 million. In Georgia alone, we went from the vaccination of 1.2 to 5.7. And then the big thing I would like to share is that March 8th, there's actually going to be the teachers are going to be eligible to now get vaccinations.
Yeah, excellent.
And so Governor Kemp made that available. I was looking to see exactly who he said. But be aware of that change that's coming up pretty quickly, because I think that's important for kids to get back to school. It's the teachers, and then it's the caregivers, and then it's another category, but you can find that on the website. So that's March 8th. Those are going to be available. Keep looking at the vaccination websites through DPH. That's your best way to get it. You can travel. I got patients going from Lake Oconee down to Dublin to get the shot. I mean, it's just wherever it's available.
Yeah, we can make that available. We just did that for our patients, where you can check, because a lot of places, Kroger, CVS, Publix, you can go online and see who and where has vaccines available, so that you can go ahead if you're eligible in that tier. Right now it's 65 and older and healthcare workers, and then March 8th teachers. But then that way you can actually track that vaccine down and go get vaccinated.
And you don't have to be in the same county. So if I live in DeKalb, I can go to Gwinnett,
can
I can go anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, because a lot of people think that I have to stay within my community. You can go anywhere that you can get the shot.
Yep.
So again,
as Dr. Fauci says, get the shot wherever you can, and 2, let's not continue to wear our masks and wash our hands, because the pandemic is not over and people are still dying. So those were the last words I want to throw in.
We got to continue to keep those things for a while, and so that we get ready to go on that cruise that we talked about.
Vaccinated life. I'm telling you, we're gonna be living that vaccinated life. We're just encouraging you to get the vaccine so that you can go back to living more of a normal life. We need to be able to fellowship with one another, get out there, get healthy, exercise, and do all of those things, and you're going to protect yourself with that vaccine.
Well, I just want to thank you all again for taking the time tonight to be with us. We have just really enjoyed it. I have learned so much, and I'm going to go out and rush out and get those books. I'm going to go on the website. I'm going to go on our website as well to see all the material they've given to us. I'm going to follow Dr. Jamelaah and Dr. Eddie, and I'm just so thankful and grateful. And we're getting ready to just get healthy so that we can run the race set before us. Let me pray for you tonight as we get ready to go. I want to thank all of our team and everybody who stayed around to here tonight to allow us to do this. And we're just looking forward to what God is going to do as we get healthier and we live longer and we live well. And so let me just pray with you now. Father, I pray that you bless our hearts and our lives and Lord, our bodies. They belong to you. They're yours. And we pray that we steward them well. And we just pray, Lord God, that you'll give us a blessed evening tonight. And as we wake up tomorrow, help us to make better choices, better decisions, so that we can live a better life. And we thank you and we praise you for it all now. In Christ's name, amen. God bless you. Have a wonderful evening. Amen. And we'll see you on Sunday as we start our Acts study, as we go into the book of Acts, and we see God take us higher in him. God bless you. Peace. Thank you.